Hi, Maritza. Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
So, Maritza is one of my co-conspirators here. So it is Maritza, Joe, Rupali, and I who are leading the charge on CJ Fearnley's collaborating for comprehensivity, Bucky-inspired comprehensivity to understand and change the world. So I'm just delighted to have Maritza working on this with me and the other folks. Now, Maritza and Joe have a much longer history with CJ. And CJ has been at Comprehensivity for a long time before I knew him. So that's what I want to talk to Maritza about. So, Maritza, tell me about CJ and Comprehensivity and your experience with CJ and his Comprehensivity.
Well, the first question is a big ask. I don't know that I can fully answer that, but I will do my best attempt with what I know. Um, the first thing I'll say is that CJ has been walking with comprehensivity far longer than my and CJ's history. My first introduction to CJ was a really, really, really long write up or a meetup that seemed to be almost dissertation like in its absolute brilliant methodical precision. And that was my introduction to the Greater Philadelphia Thinking Society many years ago. And it was like a topic that was, the title was interesting, but it was the write up that sold it for me. I was like, oh, I'd like to meet this brain that's so like deliciously orderly. I've got to meet this person. And so I went and I did. And, the rest. And then he has not been able to get rid of me. So yeah, CJ actually was one of the very first meetups I ever attended for the Thinking Society. And I would learn in time that while the Greater Philadelphia Thinking Society is fantastic, there's one CJ. Nobody else's meetup is quite like CJ's. They're all a little different. They stand on their own. They shine, to my mind, by the methodology in which they are presented. And it's just and they all have a thread. Even if there's never a requirement to have attended one of his prior meetups, there's always a theme. And this theme invariably ends up being, as I learned in time, which I didn't know back then, the theme is comprehensivity. Even when he's talking about science or math, or it doesn't matter what the topic, the theme, the overarching theme is comprehensivity. And in time, also, I learned that, he can also interweave these concepts of Buckminster Fuller and the design way. They're all interwoven. And so it's funny because I've heard you, Shrikant, talk about your surprise that you were there. You thought he was going to be talking mostly about Buckminster Fuller when interviewing him for his book. And yet he kept bringing up the design way. And it makes me realize that it's funny because I had heard those books often, like just in passing. And I was like, they're CJ's reference books. And I had never taken a deep dive into it because CJ was always like, okay, this is really heavy material. So I'm going to give it to you in small chunks so you can understand it. And that's great, right? I thought that was fantastic. If I'm looking specifically at the concepts that CJ introduced me to, I would say it's not so much that he was presenting us with a new concept. It was more that he was giving us the space to realize that a variety of concepts with which we live are actually related. And I think it's a life lesson that is, we're all the better for it. If I could be so bold as to speak for many, and if not, I specifically am the better for it. It's with CJ's discussions, I learned the art of questioning if I had considered more than one perspective, or if I had considered, enough perspectives. And the answer is invariably no, right? CJ would like me to always say no, it's not enough perspectives to a degree. But it's I'm left with this general feeling with 52 Living Ideas and the Thinking Society of it being easier for me to voice things that I have felt deeply for a long time. And honestly, it's until I had met CJ, I had never come across someone who was so predominantly a thinker, but was able to project in his own way a depth and breadth of emotional commitment to an idea, as it were, because that's what we see in CJ. I said that it doesn't matter the discussion you're having, the theme, invariably you can pick out, especially once you know what you're looking for, right? You know where it is, where his foundation is. I had never previously met someone like that, someone who was so diverse. And I mean, CJ taught me things about my own culture. Shrikant, I could get a call and you'd be like, there's this book on indigenous peoples, and it's about this, that, and the third, and I think you need to read it. And then the absolute humility of saying, I may not have understood this as I think I do. Can you read this? And can we discuss to see where our perspectives differ and combine? And that was something done off the books. And there's one in particular, it was a discussion that we had with the Thinking Society. And it was about the Constitution, and he gave the discussion. And then he sent me an email and said, I led this discussion and I feel that it would be better led by you. And I was like, what do you mean? He asked me to take his materials and to present because he felt that the topic needed my perspective. And I did, and he attended. And after I did, he actually held it again a third time because he felt that now, after having participated in my discussion, he needed to give it again. And that's so CJ, that the willingness and awareness of all the various, and not all, because obviously none of us truly can grasp all the potential perspectives, but just the openness to other perspectives is such a delight. It really just is. And it's for me, it's great because I have often found myself wondering how someone who considers himself a predominantly thinking first, how do you find a balance with the emotional components, or the uncertainty components, or all these perhaps almost intangible things. But the beauty about watching someone like CJ interact with the world is that you get an idea. You see how one can, it's just, and I say just, but I'm sure there's nothing just about it. I don't mean to be belittle, but it's just a matter of ensuring that one knows which is the thing to hold on to most tightly. And if you're doing that, you can let everything else float around you. And all you're going to do is find better ways to envision that one thing that you decided to hold on to, which is kind of awesome.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Maritza. The thing that really blows me away are his preparations for his meetups, the essays that he writes to support it. So I think nobody has done a better job of going between the written and the oral and going back. So I notice him kind of going back. So firstly, for every meetup that he does, he publishes an essay. That essay puts forth his own thoughts. It has multiple links to multiple things. Typically, anything he's working on, he has worked on many aspects of it. In other places, there are links to those essays and videos and all of it. So he's presenting in a written form to you something to consider. Okay. Then during the meetup, he has this very odd combination of really assiduous preparation and being almost open like a child to what the other person is saying. That combination usually doesn't occur in the same person.
It's true.
About the same thing at all. So he does all this amazing work and he's presenting it. But when he's actually listening to people, he is actually listening to people. He's saying, okay, what is your perspective? What is, and he, so there is a combination of enthusiastic pursuit of knowledge and the humility of saying, look, there are things that I don't know. There are perspectives that I don't know. And so I think all of us have learned a lot from him on comprehensivity. And in some, he has, I mean, our entire project of comprehensivity is his, his brain.
Absolutely.
He has prepared the ground for it. He has provided the vision for it. And we've been executing it. We've been doing many things on it. So many of us have been involved in it. And what it does is that there is a framework within which people are coming and presenting their thoughts. And it's quite stunning, the variety that we are doing and how beautifully anybody can contribute to it. My favorite example was you were doing a presentation on Aborigines in Australia, and somebody who had worked for a decade plus with these Aborigines sitting in Australia shows up. And then we just hand over the meetup to him after our introduction. And he just does amazing things with it.
I love that. I was so hesitant to provide that. Now, just so you know, by the way, the impetus for my giving that discussion was actually CJ. So I get these little like in my ear, they're not in my ear, they're emails, but CJ puts these little in my ear thoughts and then like I follow them and that's what they end up being discussions. So he was the one who told me, he was like, oh, I think he was like, I've heard you say this and this, and I know you watch this. So I think you're the perfect person to do this. And in case you need more resources, here are some resources for you to review. And so even with all that, I was very hesitant because I was like, I don't know near enough about this topic. So it was so amazing and so great for somebody from Australia to come in and provide this that like expert type, because it's not expert, maybe it's not the right word, but that's their life experience. So you're right, that was an amazing
so let's talk about our next year's project, which we have already begun, and we are having our second meetup today on Bucky inspired comprehensivity to understand and change the world. This is CJ's new project that we are all working on. And I think this is going to be, it's definitely the most complex thing that we have tried to do at 52 Living Ideas, because what we're trying to do is that we're trying to leverage the entire Bucky community. We are inviting everybody to come and share their thoughts in a way that is accessible to anybody. So not only there will be people here who do not know Bucky as well, but we want to make sure that the way in which things are presented, anybody watching the YouTube video can access it. So it is taking Bucky's ideas and trying to make it more mainstream, trying to connect up where people are with Bucky's ideas. I wouldn't say mainstream, that's not really accurate. It's all these individual contexts throughout the world, from all. And my favorite thing was when I asked CJ about if he had any suggestions, he said, wait a minute. And he wrote this nice summary of his approach to Bucky's ideas, that 4 on ramps, and which is just brilliant. And I've used it as a template for actually structuring the whole meetup. So I'm very, very excited about the Bucky series. What are your thoughts about the Bucky series coming up?
I'm so excited. So again, my Bucky experience comes mostly from CJ, but he in general, we get the concepts without the actual deep dive into the into Bucky's philosophies directly. I think from what I've learned of Buckminster Fuller himself, he has these super deep concepts, and what he's missing is the jump to communicating the concepts. So just because one puts out a book doesn't mean that one has successfully communicated one's ideas. And I'm not convinced that was obvious to Buckminster Fuller in his time. And so what I see here that we're doing with, CJ's brainchild is that we're taking these concepts, and CJ has made them his foundation, and he's built upon them. And now he's given us a good foundation and saying, now go make it pretty, and give it doors and windows and rugs and furniture. And that's what we get to do. And then you have it set up in this brilliant format where there's enough difference between each of the 4 sections that it's going to entice different people at different levels. And that's the aspect that I see missing in just about everything I've read about and written by Buckminster Fuller. We, with you at the helm and CJ at the helm, we are directly tackling the question of how do we reach others through these concepts. And what we're doing is something that I would say CJ does inherently. So I have been to many of CJ's discussions. You have been to many of CJ's discussions. Shrikant, CJ doesn't teach. He never teaches. He never preaches. But we learn so much from him sharing with us things he's researched, ideas he's put together. He shares with us thoughts, ideas, threads that he has, and he does it in a manner where we glean knowledge and we find that we've learned something. I think what this series we have coming up next year is going to do is exactly that. We are going to, each of us, be mini CJs showing the masses concepts that make Buckminster Fuller's grandiose concepts entirely approachable. And if we're as successful as some of CJ's essays and ideas are, it will seem like all we're doing is showing them in a specific way a concept that already lived within them, but they just hadn't realized it.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And exactly, I mean, I think the problem is exactly what you stated. Bucky has these visions, really profound visions, fully explicated. And then there is the experience of people. You have to keep bridging. Now, he was passionate about trying to bridge it. He did it through his writing, and almost every Bucky person I've talked to starts by saying, like, Harold this morning, he's saying, the first time I saw Bucky, during during this 15-hour lecture, and it did not end at 15 hours. It kept going. Many people had to leave, but I was the organizer, so I stayed till the end. I don't know. I lost track of time after that. The same thing with Doug. Same thing with Peter. They're all saying, but what does that mean? Is that there is a passion for communication, okay, that is there in him. Okay. Similarly, there is that passion in CJ of wanting to communicate, wanting to show people. And it is like he's offering things to people. He's not saying, you shall do that, but he's saying, look, see what this is. What do you think?
Yeah, check this out. Oh, and look at it from this angle, and then this angle.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think, this fourfold way that we have, I think is going to work. We're never going to lose sight of the insights of Bucky, because we're going to be looking at, his magnum opus, or his magnum opus is really synergetics. But this critical path is the shortest path. Many people have told me, including CJ, that was the book that really influenced, really sold them on Bucky, including Yasuhiko, by the way. I'm trying to get.
Yes, he did.
Yasuhiko is very much interested in this. So I'm hoping to get him to come and talk for a few minutes on why Critical Path had the impact it had on his life. So
he would be great one to answer the question of, what is the comprehensivity of Buckminster Fuller? I would love to hear Yasuhiko's answer on that.
Absolutely. He might show up today, or he might show up on 18th. I've given him all the updates. We'll see. So if he does come on 18th and I still have jet lag and I can't make it, please ask him that question.
Absolutely.
One question is talk for about 10-15 minutes, whatever you want, on Critical Path and why it had the impact it had. Folks, Yasuhiko is an amazing person, and he's going to be a crucial addition to this discussion. He's a Zen Buddhist monk at the age of 16 who spent 3 years in India studying Indian sculptures, completely familiar with the entire Western corpus, translated Tao Te Ching, and just he has a comprehensivist background. He's a comprehensivist.
He is.
And so it will be wonderful and to see him talk about this. So that is, the insights. There's a lot of people who have amazing things to say about geometry. Okay, of this, for example, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a mathematician, and I took I have 8 of these now. So
they're multiplying.
Yes. Howard Sherman. Okay. So what we're going to do is, just a second. I think this person is in the wrong room. Maritza, can you write to him while I'm talking and tell him that this is the wrong link?
No, I don't see them.
Oh, you don't see them? Okay. No, you can just write to people in the waiting room.
I don't see it because I'm not a co-host.
Oh, okay. Let me make you a co-host so you can do that.
And then I can do that. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it's Howard. He's
Howard. You know Howard?
Yeah, I just saw him this morning. He's here probably for the Faust, but I think it's the wrong room.
So just if you could just message him and let him know.
Yes, we'll do.
All right. So the second thing is geometry, and there is just incredible depth in the geometric thought of Bucky, which I have not really explored. So it's going to be really amazing to see all of that. Number three, we are going to do a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth discussion where we get people fully engaged, fully dedicated to looking at Bucky's ideas. Why should we look at it? We're going to, and that we're going to do through detailed discussions. And then we're going to have some of these, which are the design ideas. We're hoping to get many people. I know my friend Rupali is going to be talking about geodesic dome. In terms of geometry, we already have Kirby confirmed for January. He has this amazing set of slides that CJ likes. So Kirby is going to be presenting on that. I'll be announcing that soon as well. All right. So that's what we are planning to do. I am quite impressed by the enthusiasm with which many people who are experts in Bucky are approaching this project. I really appreciate their generosity. But at the same time, I think that it is a mutual benefit. It's a win-win, because when the ideas that you hold dear become accepted by people around you, that's a good thing for you and for them and for the world. So I think that is what I would say about this project. Let's see. Is there anything else you would like to talk about, Maritza, about CJ and how he has conducted? I mean, I have to tell you that you guys have known CJ a lot more than I have. I'm a little jealous. I was the thing I like is that the thing that I always appreciate about CJ is that how readily he is prepared to put forth his ideas on something, number one. Number two, how openly he listens to the feedback that you give him, and then you come up with that. So for example, my strengths and his strengths are different. He's far better at planning than I am. So I remember I was telling him about, I want to do Goethe. He says, great idea. Let's do this in 2024 because I have everything planned, because I have multiple tracks and this is in my literature track, and that comes up on 2024. And so my mind does not work like that, unfortunately. But at the same time, I have certain strengths about conducting, the meetups in a certain way. Like again, I remember when I told him that I was going to do the Design Way meetups, he says, great, you should plan 200 meetups. I said, I don't know how it is humanly possible to communicate something in 200 meetups. I know how to do it in one meetup. I know maybe 5 meetups, maybe 20 meetups, so that it remains as a unit for people. And but the beautiful thing is that he says, okay, what you're saying makes sense. And I started doing it, and he would watch every video. At the end of it, he would have very detailed commentary on each video.
I had the great fortune of being on the distro list for those comments. Oh, it was great.
And throughout, he basically said that, look, I was wrong. This is actually being done very, very well. And I really, really like how well you've been able to engage everybody. So, but that's all about comprehensivity, right? Of the advantage of being actually open to other people's ways of approaching things and readily saying, oh, that is better than what I was thinking, so let's do it this way. So what it makes possible is a combination of strengths of people and building on that. And he's consistently, he does that. So
yes, he really does. And I think that, meeting you, Shrikant, was kind of a game changer for CJ, because I think he was always aware of that he was aware that he is perhaps overly methodical, but it wasn't until he had the opportunity to collaborate with 52 Living Ideas that he was able to see how his methodical ways can work very well with someone who's going to fast track them. It's kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like soccer terms, but like, he sets up the ball
Yes.
so that all you have to do is kick it.
Yes.
He didn't have a methodology for kicking the ball. He was fantastic at lining it up. But then when it came time to kicking it, he was trying to kick it in stages, and that doesn't quite work. And I think, and it's from somebody a little bit outside, because I get to see yourself and I get to see CJ's interactions. I can see the delight in both of you, because he's delighted that there's somebody there to kick it. And it's fantastic to watch his amazement at seeing that work. And it's also lovely to come across somebody who has zero problem saying, oh, wow, I was wrong. This is great. I love seeing that. There's it really does, just more than anything else, it shows you the absolute innate humbleness of this great mind. And I'm going to put it out there. I think CJ is a great mind. And I do. And I think you Shrikant, are a great mind. So it's just like, from the average little citizen in the corner here watching the two of you, it's just delightful to see how you each improve the other. And it's been great.
Well, thank you, Maritza. And don't forget what CJ said about your comments in the last Comprehensivity video. He says, that I just simply love the fact that you've understood and integrated everything that I've seen, everything I've presented so well. I think very few people have done that as well as you have. So I think we have a very great team here. You, Joe, me, Rupali, each of us bring our own strengths. And everything that we are saying about CJ is built into the culture of what we are doing here. So it's not just about CJ. It is that his ideas, that approach to comprehensivity is what we are trying to present, trying to make real for many people. And hopefully they will learn that kind of an operation and apply it in their own network. That's yes.
It's like, remember you were saying how, I forget which meetup you were just saying it at most recently, but you were talking about how what art does for us in life is that it shows us, and then you borrowed, the phraseology from Ayn Rand, the sense of life, and that it concretizes something that was always there, but now this piece of art concretizes it. As you're saying that, what I'm thinking is that CJ's glue, as it were, is that he's showing so many of us in this community, this is what you've been doing in some way, or this is what you've been talking about in some way. And he's providing us with terminology that concretizes things that were already within us. So that's pretty cool.
That's wonderful. And folks, I want to tell you about these series of interviews that we are doing. Okay, these interviews are going to be done by me, Maritza, and Joe, because these are kickoff for this giant project that we are doing. Okay, we want to have the individual things. Give me just a second here. Hello. Hi, Peter. Give me about 2 minutes. I'll call you right back. Is that okay? Okay, thanks.
Man, you're gonna have to do some editing here.
That's all right. That's all right. That was Peter Meiser, who is
nice.
one of the key people on Bucky, and I hope to have an interview like this with him.
Fantastic.
And so this is not, I don't need to edit it out. This is part of the program. Okay.
Fantastic.
And I'm also expecting a call by David in any moment. So I'm looking forward to an interview with him. Because what we are trying to do is that we are trying to do two things. We are trying to really acknowledge what CJ has done. And secondly, we are trying to build on his thoughts. We're trying to build his legacy. And these interviews are your easy access into what we're trying to do. We want you to watch these interviews and come join us. Okay. Go to 52 Living Ideas and join the meetup. We're going to do these meetups every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. They will be hosted by me, Maritza, Joe, and Rupali. So I welcome you folks. And Maritza, thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Shrikant.
Bye.
Bye.
See you actually tonight. Today is a Sunday, so
Yes, I
9
shall be
p.m.
there.
We'll have a meetup. All right.
Yes. Bye.